I glanced at my reflection in the elevator's mirrored panels, adjusting the $70.00 blazer I had snagged during a Labor Day sale at Nordstrom Rack. In just a few minutes, I'd be stepping into yet another strained family gathering, smiling through clenched teeth while my siblings listed off accolades, unaware of everything they didn't know. The elevator chimed, opening to the private rooftop of the Shoreline Terrace in San Diego, a favorite among the city's elite. There they were, the Prestons, my family, known for their Pacific Coast property empire and their obsession with public image. "Well, she made it," my sister Bianca said, raising a sculpted brow. Her designer heels clicked against the tile as she walked over. "We thought maybe your startup couldn't spare you." I slid into the vacant seat beside my father, who eyed my thrifted heels like they personally offended him. "Busy day," I said calmly. "Meetings ran late." "You're still doing admin stuff?" my younger brother Dylan asked, barely glancing up from his phone. "Scheduling emails and whatnot?" "Something like that," I replied. "My real job? Founder and CEO of Calum Equity. But they didn't need to know. Not tonight." Dad gave his trademark sigh. "Nora, you're 35. When are you going to take life seriously? Bianca just secured 3 new luxury condos. Dylan landed a $12 million 0-cent investor. And I'm paying my bills," I said with a nod. Bianca grinned. "You'll appreciate tomorrow's surprise. Preston Group is finalizing a $80 million 0-cent partnership with Westbridge Holdings. Their CEO's flying in to close it." I took a slow sip of my club soda. "Westbridge Holdings, my firm." "We've been preparing for weeks," Dylan chimed in. "They're sending someone named, Nora Whitaker? No clue who she is." "Probably some executive's niece." Bianca smirked. I met their eyes steadily. "You'll meet her tomorrow." They laughed, raised their glasses, and launched into a conversation about legacy and preserving the Preston name. Meanwhile, I mentally ran through the agenda for tomorrow's meeting, the one where they'd sit across from me, needing my signature to seal their biggest deal yet. They've always called me the black sheep, still do, but after tomorrow, they'll call me boss. I spotted a gap they were too privileged to recognize. Back when I was still just an assistant, the startup I worked for, Argon Matrix, had cutting-edge machine learning tools but a disastrous burn rate. When the founders were on the verge of bankruptcy, I used my modest savings and what I'd learned about their internal structure to quietly acquire controlling interest. They were visionaries, not operators. They didn't care about boardrooms or investor decks. I let them stay in their genius zone while I rebuilt the company's foundation. 2 years later, Argon became Westbridge Holdings, a discreet but powerful private equity firm now controlling stakes in more than 70 companies, including 3 that recently undercut Preston Group on luxury real estate bids. I kept a low profile, used LLCs, trusts, proxies. Board appearances were done virtually, always masked. While Bianca bragged about Cartier and Dylan posted photos from Mykonos, I built an empire no one saw coming. The waiter poured another round. My mother pounced on her usual topic, my single status. "Nora, if you'd put some effort in, fix your hair, wear something that fits, you might meet someone worthwhile." Bianca's fiancé owns a hedge fund. Bianca grinned. "We're hosting the Green Horizon Gala next week. $5,000 0 cents a seat. Don't worry, Nora. We won't make you feel out of place." Dylan laughed. I thought of the embossed invitation on my desk, addressed to Westbridge's CEO. "I'm content," I said, slicing into my steak. "Success just wears different clothes." Dad snorted. "That's what failures say to sleep at night." Then Bianca's eyes lit up. "Oh, remember that little AI company you worked for ages ago? Guess who acquired them?" "Westbridge Holdings." Dylan chuckled. "If only you'd stayed, Nora. You might have actually been part of something big, for once." I dabbed at the corner of my mouth with my napkin, fighting the urge to smile. "Yes, imagine that." "Nora," my mother said, her tone both pitying and sharp, "their CEO is supposed to be a genius, cold, strategic, the kind of power you'll never touch." I raised my glass. here's to surprises. The CEO is flying in tomorrow for the contract signing, Bianca added, nose in the air like she was announcing royalty. They only partner with high-level firms. Says a lot about Preston Group, doesn't it? Clearly, I said lightly, glancing at my phone under the table. A priority message from my CFO lit the screen. Confirmation of a major acquisition in the Bay Area, one that would upend the commercial property sector, the kind of move Bianca couldn't even pronounce. Put that thing away, my mother hissed. You don't have anything important going on. At least show some etiquette. If only she knew I was negotiating a $340 million 0-cents merger, but I slipped the phone back into my bag. Let them enjoy their delusion a little longer. The rest of the dinner played out like a rerun. Dylan gloating about his latest condo flip, Bianca flexing her guest list for some overpriced gala, my parents practically glowing with pride. And me, still the invisible one. That was fine. Tomorrow would rewrite the script. The signing was set for 10 a.m. sharp at Preston Group's headquarters downtown. Bianca had spent nearly a year chasing this partnership, never realizing the CEO she'd been emailing was the sister she'd always belittled. As we got up to leave, Bianca leaned close and smirked. Don't worry, Nora. Maybe someday you'll get to stay at one of my developments. I'll even knock 10% off. I smiled, thinking of my oceanside home in La Jolla. Purchased outright, never listed. That's sweet of you, Bianca. If you think dinner was awkward, wait until they see who walks into that boardroom tomorrow. Don't miss it. Hit subscribe so you're there when the truth hits the table. Dylan slapped his black Amex on the table. Next round's at my new high-rise in Mission Hills, he said, flashing a grin. Fair warning, it might make someone feel a bit out of place. I stood, slinging my worn canvas tote over one shoulder. Best of luck tomorrow, I said with a small smile. Hope everything unfolds exactly the way you expect. Bianca gave me her trademarked smirk. Some of us actually thrive under pressure, Nora. Just don't let your little desk job make you late. I walked past their flashy rides, Bianca's silver Porsche, Dylan's matte black Tesla, toward my familiar Civic parked under a flickering street lamp. Tomorrow, I'd be arriving in my Phantom. And tomorrow, the masks would come off. But tonight, I returned to my modest loft in Bankers Hill, powered up my encrypted workstation, and quietly closed a deal that would reshape the AI analytics space. Because true power doesn't need applause, it works in silence, until silence is no longer an option. What happens when the overlooked sibling walks into the boardroom as the one calling the shots? Stick around, the reveal is coming, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Tap subscribe so you're here when the truth hits like a thunderclap. This morning, there was no hesitation. I slipped into a midnight blue cashmere suit, hand-stitched in Milan, the kind that whispers old money in a room full of noise. Jordan, my executive assistant, had confirmed every arrangement. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a reckoning. Langston Tower's marble lobby hummed with curated opulence, until the doors rotated open at 9:55 a.m. I stepped through, 6-inch heels clicking with purpose. Gone was the woman in discount heels. In her place stood the CEO of Westbridge Holdings. Jordan followed behind, carrying a leather portfolio that cost more than Dylan's entire tech stock portfolio. The front desk agent did a double take. Miss Whitaker? He asked, stunned. I don't see you on today's guest list. Check again, I said coolly. Try Westbridge Holdings. The guard's brow furrowed, then jumped as my name popped up under VIP clearance. Of course, Miss Whitaker, the executive elevator is this way. Every head in the lobby turned. Each sharp click of my Louboutins echoed across the marble like a ticking clock. The elevator ride to the 40th floor was silent. Just me, Jordan, and the weight of 7 years of silence and strategy. Through the glass walls of the Preston Group boardroom I could see them. Bianca, pacing in her knockoff Balmain suit. Amusing, since Westbridge now owned the global licensing for that brand. Dylan tugged at his tie, a nervous habit he'd never grown out of. My parents sat at the head of the table, glowing with anticipation. Utterly unaware, they're expecting Westbridge's CEO at exactly 10 a.m., Jordan said, checking his Rolex. Are you ready? I gave a soft smile. I've been ready for 7 years. At 10 o'clock sharp, Jordan opened the door. Voices died instantly. 4 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Curiosity shifted to confusion, then dropped into stunned disbelief. Nora? Bianca croaked. What? What are you doing here? We're about to start a very important meeting, my father said, his tone clipped. I know, I replied, setting my briefcase down and flipping the latches open. That's why I'm here. My mother's gaze narrowed. Nora, this isn't the moment for jokes. I slid a printed agreement across the glass table with perfect calm. It's not a joke, I said. The CEO of Westbridge is already here. Silence fell. Thick, crushing, real. My mother's fingers gripped her pearl necklace like a lifeline. Dylan looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe. This is ridiculous, Bianca snapped, her voice cracking. Where's the real CEO? I simply looked her in the eyes. You're looking at her. I smiled and slid my business card across the glass table. Smooth ivory stock, matte finish, elegant, restrained. Just black ink. No title embellishments, no logo clutter. Nora Whitaker, founder and CEO, Westbridge Holdings. My father snatched it up like it might dissolve. His face turned a blotchy crimson that clashed horribly with his navy sport coat. This has to be some kind of joke. Westbridge is worth billions. You're just a what? I asked, steady. A nobody? A failure? The family embarrassment? Jordan stepped forward, placing sealed packets in front of each person. Finalized investment agreements, I said coolly. Have your legal team pay close attention to Section 7.2. It outlines operational oversight clauses. Non-compliance is a deal-breaker. Bianca tore into hers like it might bite back, flipping pages with shaking hands. This can't be right, she whispered. You answer phones. You do office admin. Not since I was 28, I replied. The startup I worked for, I bought it, rebuilt it, scaled it. Since then, I've acquired more than 50 companies, including, as of last quarter, the West Coast holdings of Lenox Capital. Dylan sank into his chair, speechless. Beth Penthouse you brag about? I added. It's underwritten through a REIT I control. My mother's voice trembled. But the Civic, your apartment, you wear the same coat every winter. Intentional, I said. Some of us invest in assets, not appearances. Power doesn't always announce itself. My father's voice dropped, acidic. Why keep this hidden from us? Because you only respect what you can dominate, I said evenly. And I had no intention of being controlled. I stood, smoothing the fabric of my silk skirt, balanced, unshaken, the black sheep no longer. Now the one writing the terms. Now then, I said, setting a sleek Mont Blanc pen beside the contract. Shall we go over the terms of Westbridge Holdings' $80 million, 0 cents investment into Preston Group? It's a considerable sum. Best we clarify exactly what you're signing. Bianca had gone ghostly pale, verging on green. Wait, I've been negotiating with you this whole time? Via intermediaries, I nodded, though I'll admit your original pitch was wildly overvalued. Fortunately, I already had the internal numbers. What followed was an exquisitely painful hour for them. I guided them clause by clause through the Westbridge agreement, pausing just long enough at key sections to watch panic bloom behind their composed faces. The $80 million 0 cents wasn't charity. It was triage. Preston Group was bleeding cash behind the facade. Their glossy marketing couldn't mask the truth any longer, and I had every invoice to prove it. Of course, I said, flipping to the final section. This deal comes with conditions, namely, leadership restructuring. I looked straight at Bianca. You'll be removed as project lead. Effective, immediately. Her jaw dropped. You can't, this is my initiative. I built this. Actually, you fronted it, I replied. But every one of those deals? Funded through Westbridge shell subsidiaries. You've been selling my strategy in your name. I turned to Dylan, whose confident smirk had vanished. And those leveraged loans you've been hiding? We hold most of the debt. So, technically, you now work for me. My father stood red-faced. Now hold on, Nora. This is outrageous. You can't just— I can, I said smoothly. And I have. Westbridge isn't some boutique firm. We own pieces of over 70 major corporations. Your company? Barely registers. I paused, letting the truth land. But since we're family, I'm giving you a choice. Sign the deal, accept the terms, or decline, and watch the whole house of cards fall when I call your debt due. Silence settled like dust across the boardroom. Bianca's shoulders trembled with quiet sobs. My mother, always so composed, sat hollowed, as if decades of image management had collapsed in an instant. Dylan stared at the contract as if it might burn through the table, and my father finally lifted the pen. His hand trembled, decades of pride and control cracking as ink hit paper. One by one, they signed. Jordan gathered the signed contracts as I stood, slipping on my tailored coat. I have another meeting across town, I said, buttoning it with care. Feel free to let yourselves out. I cast one last look around the marble-trimmed room. My actual office makes the space look like an upscale supply closet. Jordan will guide you through the transition. At the door I paused. Oh, and Bianca, about that Green Horizon gala next month. She blinked, wary. Yes. Don't worry about an invite, I said, smiling faintly. I bought the venue last year. Actually, I own most of the buildings your galas are hosted in. Funny how that works, isn't it? The ride back to Westbridge True headquarters, an understated tower in La Jolla with ocean views, gave me space to breathe. The confrontation had been deeply satisfying. But it wasn't about revenge. It was about release. I was done pretending. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Why didn't you tell us? I gazed out over the San Diego skyline, remembering every dinner where they mocked my clothes, my car, my silence. Because you never would have believed me. You only hear what roars. In the months that followed, the tides shifted. Bianca was moved to a strategic advisory post, graceful exile. The projects she claimed were properly credited to Westbridge's analysts. Dylan's portfolio was folded under our distressed assets division. His name remained, but the autonomy? Gone. As for my parents, they rewrote the past with remarkable ease. Suddenly, they'd always known I was exceptional. They bragged to their friends about their brilliant daughter, the elusive investor behind Westbridge Holdings, the visionary who just needed time. I let them talk. It cost me nothing. I kept my modest Bankers Hill apartment, for balance, and finally retired the Civic, donating it to a San Diego Women's Resource Center. My true residences, including the penthouse atop the Westbridge Tower, stayed private. My sanctuaries. The next family dinner, it was held in my executive suite, 60 floors above the city. They admired the panoramic ocean views, the curated art, the hushed, understated wealth. I lifted a glass of Brunello worth more than Bianca's wardrobe. Success, I said quietly, isn't about what you flaunt. It's about what you build when no one's paying attention. No one replied. For once, the black sheep had silenced the flock. But here's the twist. I still shop at Target. Because real power doesn't perform. It simply is. If you made it to the end of my story, thank you for seeing me. I was the one they dismissed, the quiet one, the underestimated. But I've learned you don't need applause to matter. If you've ever been counted out or belittled, drop a comment below. Tell your story. And if this resonated with you, hit subscribe. Not for the drama, but for the truth. The ones they mock the most often build the strongest empires. You don't owe anyone proof. You owe yourself the life you've imagined. Build it, quietly, relentlessly, and on your own terms.